I believe we're online and just
No, I know. No, I know.
just so anyone observing this meeting knows, we got notice from our FMCS facilitator a couple minutes ago that she was called away on an emergency and she's unable to facilitate this meeting. And so we discussed as a team what to do without our facilitator present. And we decided that we'd spend a few minutes discussing the schedule of meetings and adding some longer meeting times. And then just maybe quickly review and get some clarification from the team on the late resignation potential resolution. And then we will close the meeting and reconvene at a later date since we don't have a facilitator.
Yeah, for the few people watching, I think one of them might be my dad, so just, hi, Dad.
Hi, Jill.
Sorry. I've been wanting to do that.
I haven't told my dad because that's exactly what he would do. He's retired.
Okay.
So Jill reached out to Stephanie to ask about her availability for some additional dates. And I think Jill and I have each tried to figure out availability. I'm really happy that we were able to find some dates and times because I do think, and our experience has been that sometimes the longer sessions, while they can be tiring, do end up getting a lot of work done because we're just not divided up as much. And so we looked at Tuesday, May 11th and Tuesday, May 25th, and it sounds like the preference is for May 11th.
I think that we could do both. The thing is, we want to be done earlier on the 25th. Jay and I both are attending and helping out with our graduations at North and West. But, I mean, since our final schedules, we're kind of doing something a little bit different this year, we could participate in the IBB on May 25th.
So if we do, it's probably better regardless to hold the dates because we can always end earlier or just cancel them if we happen to make really good progress. So, and then coverage for your all classrooms, is that okay? I mean, obviously we would help with that, but I just. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So, 8:30 till.
Well, so on the 11th, Linda will be coming, you'll be available maybe like 10:30?
Oh, okay.
10? Okay.
Okay.
Right, to reschedule.
No, that's okay. It's good, if we're gonna have a long day, that would give us time to kind of like attack email in the morning and then focus our attention, I think. So we want to say 10 to 5? Okay. And then on May 25th, like 8:30-ish or 9 until,
Yeah, I mean, I'm good on the early mornings. It's Jay we have to check with. Just kidding. I know, we're up at 7. So I think that we report for graduation around like 5:30 or 6. I don't know why I can't remember this, because we didn't have it last year, maybe that's why.
I won't be able to stream on the
6.
25th.
you won't?
I'll have to
Because,
work over it.
oh, can we get coverage for you? Or can you teach me or David how?
7 o'clock.
South's the only one at 8 o'clock, so they'd probably be
Maybe I can
5:30
teach
or 6
David.
if you've got 7.
We'll
Right.
figure that out. Thanks
Depending
for
upon
letting me
which
know.
job you have. Ushers outside are 5:30, if you're inside, it's probably 6, so.
Okay. So Rachel, we might want to stop at, I don't know, I don't want to say too early, but I'd like to have a little break and grab some food before. Yeah. So we probably have to report between 5:30 and 6 to our locations for graduation that night.
So 3,
Yeah, we can start 8:30, I think is fine.
8:30 to 3 o'clock? That sounds great. And we'll get, I think when we meet in the morning, we can set break times, so that we don't have like fatigue and then they're actually like set. Okay. I will have my assistant send calendar invites to everybody.
Okay, great.
Okay, let me pull up my sloppy notes that
Well,
I'm
and we
just-
still have the Thursdays, like Thursday yeah,
Yeah. We'll keep all other scheduled meetings. Again, it's easier probably to cancel. Okay, I'm just gonna pull up my kind of like, and the sheet that where we took notes is in my office, unfortunately. I just don't have this in like a form that I feel like it's still very drafty. One thing that I feel like I didn't really have fleshed out that I was just kind of going with whatever on was what I'm calling qualifying exemptions from the late resignation. I think that, again, makes sense when I think about, if I'm sitting in human resources and someone comes to me, there's going to be situations like we talked about. So the ones that I have are move of a spouse for employment purposes. We can talk about how many miles from the boundaries makes sense, that I'm comfortable with, and job promotion, and I limited it in my draft, and I don't know what we meant or thought about, to an administrative position in a public school district. Are we thinking about any other promotional things?
So if someone will maybe take the coordinator position, is that considered administrative?
I think we need to talk about that.
Teacher is probably not going to do job from a teacher's
we've had teachers go to instructional coach positions
I don't. I mean,
within
for-
our district.
Yeah, for us, that wouldn't be administrative.
something like site coordinator or curriculum coordinator or director of curriculum somewhere.
Yeah, if we define it as administrative moving forward, then yes, those would qualify in my mind.
Someone who's not on the teacher salary schedule. I would think
Okay.
in addition, our coordinators are not on the teacher salary.
Yeah, they're considered administrative.
Same thing with, coordinators kind of doing it to like, it's for kind of, that kind of
It could be,
base levels of administration.
it could be an elementary intern, associate principal, it could be something like that in the middle of the year, I guess. Or it could be late too, it could be summer where they got that offer. So I think we need to think through that.
So if a clarification would be something like meaning a position not on the teacher's salary schedule, does that define it?
I
Yeah.
mean, for us, it would. I don't, as long, I don't know, if they're moving to another school, if it's necessarily the same, but I think as long as we kind of have a general idea of like,
That's not hard for us to find out either. We can check in with some other districts as to
For sure.
who's, I'm thinking too, like, let's say someone was a classroom teacher and they went back and they got a counseling degree, or they got, for example, a social worker or nurse, and they had that opportunity to actually change a job. It's not a promotion. There wasn't anything open in the district and they found something in a new district.
Okay.
I'm-
Yeah.
I don't, I'm
Yeah, I
just
think
throwing
we
that
just need
out
to
there.
flush
I-
yeah, that's a good point. I think our subcommittee needs to give that a little more thought.
Okay.
Okay. And then just tell me if like, my mindset is like, the reflects correctly our discussion we had. The way that I'm sort of seeing it structured is something like this. If you want to resign late after the deadline set forth in the statute, as a professional employee, you have three options. A, you give notice and you meet one of these qualifying exemptions. Promotion or move of a spouse. B, you give notice and you pay liquidated damages. Or C, give time for a suitable replacement, with the caveat that during that suitable replacement period, this is the way I built it in, at any point in time, the professional employee could decide instead to pay liquidated damages, but they'd have to give the notice. So let's say, for example, the notice is your typical 2 weeks. then, and you're, only 2 weeks into the suitable replacement, that's what you've decided to do, and you say to yourself, I really have to separate, you could go to HR and say, now I'm giving you 2 weeks that I'm just gonna leave and pay liquidated damages.
That's what I thought we decided on, something like that.
And I think we have to define what 2 weeks is. Is it 2
Yeah.
weeks? It's not 2 weeks till the board, and within, when the next board meeting is, and if the board meeting isn't within 2 weeks, I mean, I think once you give your 2 weeks notice and pay your liquidated damages.
So we can talk about that. You're absolutely right. From a drafting perspective, you have to be really clear. I like either using calendar days, or what might make sense for different parts of this might be contract days. So I think when we meet, we decide, is this one that's appropriate to use contract days as the measurement period, or should we use calendar days as a measurement period? But yeah, I agree. I don't want anything confusing where you're like trying to calculate out from the next board meeting date.
So you're thinking to eliminate the option completely of just straight up pay the liquidated damages? You want a 2 weeks notice? no matter-
Yeah, or maybe, we can talk about the time period, I was just pulling that as like the typical, but yes, you go to HR, you say, here's my check, here's my whatever. And I think we can also put in a provision that allows the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources sort of a discretionary provision to waive either liquidated damages or the notice, I'm just gonna call it the 2 weeks, but we have not decided on that.
Okay.
Where it's in the mutual benefit of the district and the employee. So just one example of that might be serious performance concerns resulting in an employee asking to resign in lieu of termination, a mutual benefit type situation. The reason why I wanted to do it that way, again, this is why it's like, I'm just too embarrassed to show you what I have right now, is because if it's limited to that, I don't want us to have to seek board action for a waiver and conclusions to be drawn that was sought because of performance concerns or anything in that realm. I want that to be able to be a private matter. If that's the only situation in which they're just straight up waived, I don't want that to be someone to get to look on board action and draw conclusions that may or may not be true.
And the board would just grant that authority to this position through their agreement to the P&A.
Yes.
Right.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, the way you want to write it would give the director of HR the ability, and then you wouldn't have to go to the board meeting to ask the board to waive for that position. All right.
I think personnel matters should be private. They're intended to be private under the law, and I don't want, if we structure it like this, right, where they're, right now, I think, and it's problematic, it's very ambiguous and amorphous as to why it's being waived. With something this narrow, like you get this option or this option or this option if you need to resign during the contract year, I don't want, it would be potentially obvious why it was being waived.
So I have one other situation, just because sometimes these things come my way. Is there a leave policy or provision that we have now? Let's say someone has a child that's not been diagnosed with an illness, but a child who's struggling in one way or another, and the professional feels it's in the best interest of the family to be home with that child.
Yeah, it is personal leave. I think it's captured under personal leave, personal extended leave in the P&A right now. The way I read it, it's like an emergency provision. If something happens, if there's a serious illness to a family member.
Because that's what we were talking about, right? You feel like that,
I think,
it expands beyond parents, is what you're thinking, or a person.
yeah, I'd have to go back and look at it specifically, but
Okay.
to me, it's all-encompassing of family, immediate family, I think is how it reads.
So if some of this is going to be tied to some exemptions, not to make our work harder, but that might be a good time. Mike and I have talked about how that provision in our contract is,
Needs to be
and
clear,
I've
yeah.
gone back to 20 years of negotiation experience, and I think we need to if, you know, if it ties into it, even though we didn't notice it, I think might be a natural hook to look at that.
Yeah,
I would agree to that.
yeah.
So-
And, I mean, the goal always, I mean, we can generally do this because we're such a large employer, is to not get people to resign, to get them to utilize the leave afforded to them under the negotiated agreement, and also under FMLA, ADA, those kinds of things, to take job protected leave when they need to take it, and then to continue their employment whenever that situation has resolved, rather than just ending their employment. So those were, if it is something like a medical situation of themselves or others, family emergence, those kinds of things, we would want to steer them towards the leave benefits and not toward
Okay, so
something that.
don't laugh at me because I shouldn't be saying this on camera, but I've been watching it's the 10th year anniversary of the Joplin tornado. So these kind of things come to my mind,
Yeah.
you know. Someone's has, you know, a house fire and they're just at the point where they're like, you know, something devastating happens in their life. That's something we would work with and not, or what if they just wanted to resign in that case? They're not necessarily going to a competing person. It's just like, you know.
Boy, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
Put me
I
on the
mean,
spot on that one?
I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe we figure that's,
Yeah.
you know.
Do you know what
that's
happened to
so-
David Smith's house?
Wait, what?
No, sorry, David. I didn't mean to
I
bring
do.
up.
He hasn't left us yet. We provide him daily support.
Yeah.
His house had a serious house fire
Oh, man.
recently. I'm just sharing your personal information on YouTube.
I'm good at that. If I needed to, I could share all that. All the platforms I can share it on.
Yeah.
I guess-
We would absolutely try to work with that.
I
In
guess, you
fact,
know, in this, you know, here are exemptions.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make sure that there's not something that's realistic that would box someone in. But I think maybe even that situation might be realistic to give them some sort of
Leave.
leave.
Yeah.
I think our biggest issue is with people that are leaving, that aren't covered by this, that are people that are leaving to take a job with another district.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the main concern from the organization, is just trying to protect its interests there. And then those things that you mentioned, those crazy life things, we absolutely try to work with staff on that.
Okay, that gives me really good. I'm gonna make some tweaks and do better organization to what I have. And then I'm gonna send it to the committee in advance, so you guys don't have to like read it on the fly. You can make notes on it. And then hopefully, this is really good because I think our meeting will be really efficient. I think our discussion then can hopefully focus on, is anything I wrote not like easily understandable, reordered, that sort of stuff, but then what are the time periods? What are the numbers in here? And are they contract days or calendar days or whatever? Okay. That is awesome. I'll do a 3-sentence joint statement for today and share it with everyone. And I will have calendar items sent to everyone. Clayton has let me know that he's going to be streaming graduation on May 25th, and so David is going to help me figure out how we can get another talented person to make sure that we are appropriately streamed on the 25th. And we're gonna figure that out.
Is there a high school journalism kid that's not doing their own graduation that night?
Oh yeah,
There you go.
Oh, no.
you know, tap into our resources.
Facebook Live.
There we go.
Yeah, let's just get Jay Moyer.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.